would not benefit from a USCCA membership in that way.
Right.
Is that right? Why is that?
Well, New York does everything they can to discriminate against gun owners to make sure that they don't carry a firearm. And then one of those things is allowing you to have the protection of legal representation, a prepaid legal service. They don't want you to have that. So they made it illegal. It's the same thing every time you see an infomercial that says offer does not apply in the following states.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing. For whatever various reason, the reason in New York is just because if people felt more secure in being able to carry a firearm, knowing that they've got legal representation, more people might take advantage of the Second Amendment and go ahead and do it. And because it gives you that option, gives you the alternative, it gives you that security and that peace of mind, they'll tell you, no, we're going to make it illegal for you, for them to practice in this state. But then you'll have people in the legislature will turn around and tell you, well, we're going to make it illegal for you to carry if you don't have carry insurance. But carry insurance is also illegal.
Right.
So because they're two separate issues, they'll get away with it. So
it just struck me.
But the bottom line is get out of New York. New York sucks.
Well,
get out of New York.
No, but it kind of got me thinking. It's like, well, so what happens if you have a New York firm that practices law and you put them on retainer? Like, why wouldn't USCCA have a law firm that they work with in New York that you could put on retainer for the amount it would cost for a subscription to the USCCA? And would New York actually object to that and force you to drop that retainer because it's specifically for gun defense? I mean, that seems ridiculous.
Well, no, when you're dealing with like one of these USCCA things or anything else like that, it's insurance. Okay, it's not legal representation.
Okay,
it's insurance. It's going to be a different animal altogether. If you go and hire an attorney and you say, okay, listen, I want to put you on retainer, that retainer is going to cover anything that you need that lawyer to do. Whether it's real estate transactions, business transaction, a divorce, whatever, you've got a lawyer, criminal, whatever, that's your lawyer. He's on retainer. Mm-hmm. You have entered into a specific contract with a specific individual to cover a blanket of interests. An insurance company, you're talking about a pool. Any of these carry insurances is a pool. Now, there's two major ones that are out there. You got U.S. Law Shield and USCCA. One of them is an insurance, operates as an insurance company. The other one operates as a lawyer referral. One guarantees that you're going to get lawyer referral. The other one is going to say, well, this is an insurance carrier with a pool, and we will pay up to X amount of dollars to the lawyer of your choice.
Right.
For a firearms related case. So they're two different things. One of them is an actual lawyer where you've put a firm, you'll have a multitude of lawyers will sign up and become members of this organization. And if a member in a certain state needs a lawyer, and a lawyer will be assigned to them. So you are in effect putting everybody in retainer on it. But since you're not retaining a specific lawyer, they're looking at it as the same way they would look as with any insurance, as a pool. Now, whether or not you decide to have it or keep it, there's several states it's not applicable. These things, New York, New Jersey, I don't believe you can get it in Connecticut. So several states have tried everything they can to do it. And my issue is, well, how good of a lawyer are you?
Yeah.
Because if you are missing out on tens and thousands of hundreds of thousands of potential clients because you can't get your product serviced in that state, how good of a lawyer are you?
Right.
If you can't practice business in my state, why would I want you to practice business in my state? If you can't, why would I want you?
Uh-huh.
I'm not. If I can't get a lawyer to practice in my state because they say, well, I can't pass the bar exam in that state. Well, maybe you're not the lawyer I want.
Right. But I don't
You know,
even
that's
know.
just
I don't even know if they even try, though, knowing that they can't operate in the state. I don't know if any one of them has ever tried to pass the New York bar.
and that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. Because if you, now this is me speaking personally as a staunch two-way advocate that lives and dies by the Second Amendment as an absolutist.
Right.
If you are serving the Second Amendment community and you believe absolutely in the Second Amendment and you are not fighting to produce, to let your product be available to people within certain states, why aren't you? Why is that not a hill you're willing to fight on?
Right.
You know, if you're willing to turn your back on all of those people and say, well, you know, the state doesn't want us there, so we're not there. Well, that's not the case. That's not the case. We've got Second Amendment organizations all over the country that have no vested interest in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, California, any of the Washington State, anywhere else with their Second Amendment infringements. They go and fight the battle there.
Yeah.
They go to those states and they fight the battle, and they have nothing to gain by going into those states and fighting the battle. They're fighting the battle for the people that live in those states. The best that they're going to get as a gain is maybe people are going to donate to their cause or become members of it. But when you've got these companies that say, oh, we represent all gun owners unless you live in those states. Well, why aren't you fighting to represent those people? Aren't those people have the same rights as every other person does in every other state? Why wouldn't you be picking up the mantle and working with organizations like ours or the NRA or Gun Owners of America or National Firearms Institute? Why wouldn't you be picking up the mantle and working with them and saying, you know what, we're going to sue the state because we want to be able to extend our services to those residents because it's important.
Right.
And if you're not going to do that, I really don't think I want anything to do with you.
Yeah. I know the Firearms Policy Coalition is one of the groups that actually is fighting with New York State, but they're mainly focused on trying to get the carry laws and stuff deregulated. That they're not really interested in representing people for actual usage at the moment. So, you know, that the good on them for that battle, but that really doesn't help those of us in New York, especially those in the upstate, where everyone should be able to defend themselves. Everyone should be able to own a firearm, whether you're in the city or out of the city. But it's more likely for you out of the city to be a person that carries and be a person that owns firearms. And I don't know why they don't start with the upstate and recognize that we can start with the upstate and then make our way into the city.
Well, because you can't really separate the city from upstate.
Boy, I wish we could. I mean, I know you live there. I know you live there, but at the same time,
Dal, you have to take into consideration the mentality of a lot of people from upstate. When it comes to upstate, Vass, you might be able to back me up on it. What is the percentage of people in upstate that actually go and vote? 30%?
Well, yeah, roughly. You're talking about slightly higher in a couple of the big cities are really where everyone's voting. So
you get 30% of the people vote. If only 30% of the constituency gives enough of shit about their rights that they're going to go actually and vote, why is anybody going to want to put that much stock into the 5% of gun owners that actually get off their ass and do something about it? I've been telling New Yorkers for years, especially those outside of the 5 boroughs, if you are a Second Amendment proponent, even if you decide not to carry a firearm, go get your concealed carry permit. Go get it. And people say, why? And I said, well, because how many concealed carry permits are there issued in New York State right now? 15,000? All right. How many gun owners are there in New York? 2 million?
5 million.
5 billion.
5 million.
All right.
1 in 4. 1 in 4.
All right. So if you looked and said, okay, there's 3 million gun owners in New York. 3 million that we think there's 3 million, because there's no way to really know how many gun owners there are, right? Because there's no way to, because when You get the 4473, it just says that you bought a gun. The state doesn't get a list of who bought the gun. The federal government has got a number. Okay, the state doesn't know for sure how many people bought a gun. Maybe 5 people bought one gun each, or one guy bought 5. They don't know. So it's a rough estimate. So the only way the state knows how many legitimate gun owners there are is by taking account of the concealed carry permits, which are reported to the state, because that's part of the background check.
Right.
They say, okay, there's 15,000 gun owners. Well, imagine if 3 million gun owners decided to get their concealed carry permit tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now the state says, holy shit, there's 3 million New Yorkers walking around with a gun. Maybe that's not the group of people we should be screwing with when it comes to taking away their rights. Maybe that's much more of a viable voting bloc than the 14,000 assholes we can discriminate against now, because they have no voting power. They have no financial power. They don't carry any weight in the legislature because there's only a few of them. If you have 3 million of them, they would get taken more seriously.
Well, I wish that people, because we could do this, it's kind of like term limits in Congress. And the rough estimate, the accepted estimate is 5 million gun owners in New York State. Could be higher, could be much, much higher. We don't know for sure. But if that's on average in most elections, we have about 3.5 to 4.3 million people in New York State vote in any given election.
Right.
There are more gun owners than votes in the state in any given election. If the gun owners actually just showed up and voted in their self-interest, in the interest of the Second Amendment and their own self-interest of owning a firearm, New York State would be anything but what it is right now.
Right.
People just have to get out and vote. The fact that we have only we've been consistently as low as 28% of people voting in non-presidential or midterm elections.
That's right. This is
acceptable.
Like I said, and this is part of the reason why I really don't have sympathy for a lot of New Yorkers, because they have the power to change something and they choose not to. With their apathy, they choose not to.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that do want to change things and they want to do something, I lose apathy for them, because when I tell them, listen, the only way you're going to stop it is to get out. You got to get out. You leave that barren dust bowl of failure to itself. Let it implode, because you're one of the only productive people keeping it alive, and they don't. They remain there. They stay there.
You know what's my fear about that, Frank? Is people who don't vote, no matter where they are. So if you're not voting in New York State and you say, I got to get out of New York State because it's too progressive and they keep passing these laws and they won't allow me to exercise my Second Amendment right, and they're putting all these blockades in my way, I'll go to, I don't know, Kansas, Florida, Utah, name your state, doesn't really matter. They're going to go somewhere else, Tennessee, North Carolina. And you go there, but you don't vote. So you're not,
but I'm not talking
yourself, because
I'm not talking about
happening in that next state.
Right. I'm not talking about the non-voters, though. I said, if you're one of those people who doesn't care and doesn't have, is not active, you're apathetic to everything, you sit there and you don't vote, you can sit there and squalor and fail. I don't care. I have no sympathy for you. It's the productive people that say, I can't stand this anymore. No matter what I vote for, my voice isn't heard. Isn't it? And they're the productive people. They're the ones that do vote. That few in the minority that keep getting crapped on by these states, move, leave, get up, get out of the way, do what you got to do, move on with your life, cut your losses, and go to greener pastures. Take your voting with you and go to where life is better, and let the state fail behind you. Because all you're doing, if you're a productive member of society, is breathing life into a society filled with leeches that just keep sucking the life's blood out of everything, and they don't care which way the wind blows because someone's writing them a check. And I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing about how bad things are when people have the ability to do what they need to do. My cousin, 19 years with the housing department in New York City, 19 years, 1 year away from being able to capitalize on his pension and benefits and everything. He said, you know what? I got to get out of here. I got to pack my family up. I got to get my kids to a better school. I got to get them a better life. I'm going to cut my losses and I'm going to get out of here. And they sold their house. They did what they had to do and they left. They packed up. They sacrificed what they could and they walked away and they're happier for it. The kids are in a better school. They're in a better environment. They're not dealing with the crime. They're not dealing with midway friggin' through an island having to pay another friggin' toll. They're not having to deal with piss and shit all over the subways. They're not having to deal with the crime. They're not having to deal with any of that crap because they said enough. And they left.
Yeah.
And they left.
Yeah, but
If they could do it, a lot of other people could too. I know there's a lot of people that are in a boat where they can't. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Then stop accepting life the way it is and be just as active for your point of view as the people demanding a check for nothing are.
No, I understand completely. It's one of the catch-22s out there, or at least the one that people think they're in. The biggest lie of our government and our education system has been that we've convinced people that they really can't do anything. We somehow switched our view of our elected officials and the legal system, our voting system, that those people who get elected, somehow they magically become geniuses. And you and I, and we've all met more than enough politicians to know that's nowhere near true.
No,
Nothing has nothing to do with reality, but they think, oh, they must be really brilliant and they're going to stay in power and we're just going to obey what they say. And look at what we're getting as a consequence. It's not just New York. I mean, you can say the same things that are happening in New York are happening in Illinois, in California, Massachusetts. It's happening in Connecticut. It's in Maine and Maryland. We're seeing this across the country, and it's starting with the bluer than blue states and then goes to everywhere else. And that's why our nation's doing so badly. And that's why Trump has been such a real amazing turnaround. I mean, God, it's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is insane the way he's changing everything. But we still have the problems like, and by the way, this woman's name is Deep DeMoss or something like that. What's her name? I'll get it right. Dank DeMoss is her name. Where we get this stupid lawsuit because body positivity, whatever that's supposed to mean, you're fat. That doesn't mean that anyone should treat you badly, but that doesn't mean that I should treat you special. It's not a superpower. You're obese. And I don't have to change my life to cater to you. Same thing with the LGB. Same thing with your religious preferences, your sexual gender. The world doesn't have to change because everyone has an issue. Everyone has a thing that they either identify as or characteristic of or whatever it may be. Everyone has that. The world isn't special just because you have an issue. We got to get away from that. We really do. And we're starting, and I think there's enough feedback coming out there, but we got to keep resisting this, oh, you can't say anything about Dank DeMoss because she's a fat black woman. What's that got to do anything? It's a stupid, frivolous lawsuit. She should lose, point blank. Oh, well, you can't talk about gun control because kids, they could possibly be hurt. Those kids are also joining gangs, and that's the real root problem because there's more gang violence and gun violence from gangs. That's one of the leading problems we have facing this nation. Not talking about it isn't making anyone safe. Passing laws that are punishing law-abiding citizens isn't making anyone safe. Saying that, oh, orange man bad, and not offering any other suggestion of how to improve these things is not making anyone safe. And we got to realize that. Oh, you can't talk about that. Why not? It's called free speech. But I don't like it. You don't have to. You can have your own speech. You can challenge my speech, but that doesn't mean I have to be silent because you're uncomfortable. There's always someone on the other side. I think these are the things we really need to identify. I think we're starting to see that because Trump has stood up as he has. And we've seen now everything. And you've been, I know, Frank, you and I, we've gone back and forth. It's like, we just need to change it. We just need to change it. And I've usually been the one going, well, the system is built this way and the system could crash if we do it overnight. And Trump has now come in and said, Mike, telling me directly, I'm wrong. He's taking your position, Frank, and he's actually the first politician in decades.
I was just thinking that.
Like, first politician half a century now that I've been alive, half a century, almost 60 years. And this is the first time I've seen a politician who promised stuff, got the votes for that promise, turned around and did what he said. Yeah. And the Democrats are losing their minds because they don't know what to do. It's like, how do we take him down? Well, he's convicted. We knew that already. Well, he's a misogynist. Yeah, you said that for many, many years. We knew that already. Well, he's going out there and he's trying to make these deals with Greenland and Gaza and Mexico. He's got tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Yeah, he told us he was going to do it. He's deporting it's the illegal immigrants. He's deporting them. Oh my God. Yeah, that's why I voted for him.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to say. And
some of them are going, I bet you have buyer's remorse. And I'm like, no, not really.
No, this is exactly what I expected because this is exactly why I voted for him. He wasn't unclear. And they're acting like, oh, you just didn't understand this was going to happen. No, yes, he was very clear for many years about what he was going to do. I understood it very clearly. You told me, the news media, the left-leaning news media has been very clear in saying, beware, this is exactly what he's going to do. Guess what? He's doing those things. That's why I voted for him. Yep. This is a good thing. And everyone's shocked because we've never seen, many people who are alive today have never seen a politician that actually does what they promised.
Not in my memory. And I'm not older. I'm like as you guys.
Now I think the closest that anyone could ever say, where in any of our lifetimes where we had people do what they said they were going to do, was with the Contract of America with Newt Gingrich.
Okay.
When they had the Republican Revolution in Congress. Now, the Contract with America was, this is what Congress is going to do. These are the 10 things that we are going to do in Congress, and they did them. They didn't say, these are the 10 legislative agendas that we are going to pass into law, because many of those items never got passed into law. But they went to the floor. There was a bill. They were voted on, sent to the Senate, and whether it passed or failed, and if it passed, made it to Clinton's desk, because that's who was president at the time. The fact of the matter was the Republicans at that time lived up to what they said they were going to do. They made a contract. Now, they knew going in
that they probably
60% of it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And they knew, but they were smart enough to spend the political capital trying to push that whole thing through. And whether it was win, lose, or draw, they did what they said they were going to do, and they got credit for it. Didn't last long because the best proposals are the ones that didn't get initiated into law, and it wound up being business as usual shortly thereafter. Trump, on the other hand, the guy's he's just doing. He said, this is they spent, instead of spending 4 years trying to figure out, how to continue his business as usual. They spent 4 years trying to figure out how to capitalize on the power of the presidency. Right. What can we do? What can we do that we can just get done without any interference, without any cooperation from the House or the Senate, and not have to worry about anything? What can we do on our own? And they're using the full weight and power of the executive office without even trying to expand on the power of the executive office. The people are freaking out because I didn't know the president had the power to do that. He's the chief executive. Yeah, he does.
And,
You know,
and then we get what people aren't thinking about. U.S. aid or the Treasury Department, they're run by the president. They're part of the executive branch. So when he's taking away their funding or changing the way they're spending money or firing some of their employees, that's his right by the Constitution. They're in his branch. That's not Congress. So he's not breaking any laws, and they're trying to
and U.S. aid for the last how many years has been just given a blank. It was the forgotten office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was the forgotten office. All the money that Congress, and the Senate earmarks that the president signs in to be able to spend. It was like, well, who's getting the checks? Well, nobody knows who's getting the checks. So we're like, well, who's writing the checks? Oh, the checks are all coming out of that office over there? Shut it down.
Yeah.
Shut it down. And that's what he did. Instead of trying to figure out where the money was going, they figured out where the money was coming from. And now you got books. And now you can look at it. And they're starting to see what it was. It $265 billion in fraudulent payments were made last year by Biden.
Well, that's under the Biden administration, and that's the Treasury. U.S. aid is separate of that. That's more the funding for foreign governments. Like we funded a trans opera in Ireland. We funded an LGBT comic book in Peru. We gave. There's millions, tens of millions of dollars of these kinds of examples of pushing DEI in various countries around the world, LGBT and DEI policies around the world. And we spent millions, added all up, billions of dollars through there. But that's not the only thing we did, because U.S. aid has been, at least for several decades now, a financial wing of the CIA. And we're putting the money in, and it's not because we spent all the money for the opera. It's not because we spent all the money for the comic book. We spent some money on that. And then the rest of the money got siphoned off to people we were trying to influence in those governments, individuals that we were trying to influence that would change the politics in other nations more to the way that the CIA wanted it. And that's dangerous, because that's, it's almost, I can't say it's illegal, but it's definitely in the shadows. It's definitely not transparent. And now we're seeing all this money that they're spending, and that we find out that there's departments in the Treasury that have never once questioned. Their entire job is pay the check. But that's a fraudulent company. Doesn't matter. Pay the check. But that's connected to Al Qaeda and ISIS and terrorism. Pay the check.
Mark,
they've never once stopped the check. No, with known problems, and that's bad.
There's a guy by the name of Mark Benz that's out there, and I believe it's Peter Behringer is another. And there's an account called Data Republican on X that have been deep diving into things from the USAID, and they basically have come up with money trails that go out of the USAID, and they go into something like 55,000 different NGOs, both foreign and domestic. And what they've been finding is that a lot of these people that are really vocal on the domestic side, Schumer, Ilhan Omar, AOC, many of these, they're not just being vocal because it's their party. They're being vocal because they have actually been recipients of money from the USAID that has gone out to foreign NGOs and then been kicked back to their pockets.
Yeah.
And it's not just Democrats either. I guess they've actually traced back money to Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
He's also been a recipient. So
it's money laundering.
Yeah, it's
money laundering.
They're just washing with his hands.
It's like when
they all need to go to jail.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when we hear individuals like Josh Riley as a great example, and people can double check this because it's all public, opensecrets.org. Josh Riley, who ran for the New York 22nd District, someone who I personally have known for many years. Josh ran, and he loved to say, many Democrats do, I didn't take any corporate PAC money. I don't take money from corporations. In fact, the DNC chair this weekend, last weekend, excuse me,
Right.
came out and said, Ken Martin says, the Democrats are going to take money from bad billionaires. We're going to take money from corporations. They take it from leadership PACs. Al Franken, former senator, disgraced Democrat, had to resign because of Me Too. He has what they call a leadership PAC. As a former member of government, he has this PAC. So the corporation gives him the money, and Al Franken gives the money to Josh Riley. So Josh can say, I don't take money from corporate PACs. I got money from Al Franken. But Al Franken got the money from the corporation. That's in any other description, and you did this personally in your life, that would be considered money laundering. In fact, that's part of the RICO statutes that we've used against mafia to put them in jail. The same kind of money washing deal. We do this now to connect people to terrorism and to try and shut down the ways terrorism is funded around the world.
Right.
But yet this is what's funding many of our politicians on the left and the right. I use Josh Riley as an example because I personally know that has happened, that the money is gone in that way. This is horrendous. And the DNC, for all of this, they've looked at this, and people are starting to notice, especially now that we finally see what transparency in our government looks like. We haven't seen transparency in our government in, 40 years, 50 years, maybe 70. And we finally get to see what transparency looks like and what our government is actually doing. And the DNC says, what should we be doing now? I know we'll get Ken Martin, who says there's good billionaires and bad billionaire money, and we're only going to take good billionaire money. What the hell does that mean? Who knows? And then you see David Hogg, Mr. Put me in front of a camera because I hate all the guns. He has no purpose in life other than say guns bad. And he's out there. Matter of fact, I have a quote. I thought
Lily Tang Williams wants to debate him again.
Of course.
But I say he should do it.
He won't.
I know he won't, because the last time she humiliated him.
I thought I had there's a link. David Hogg himself said that he would, in April, I believe it was April 19th of 2022, that he said that he is toxic, politically toxic, and that he would never run because he is so toxic, voters would never want to support him. He said that he would never go for an elected office because he's just another white man and he's got privilege, and he would not get in the way of any person of color. And he just became DNC vice chair, taking it away from men and women and people of color. And he's toxic. What's going on in America? What's happening here?
Yeah, well, the problem is that he's the only one still willing to shill without having to be paid.
No, he's getting paid.
Oh, he's getting paid. No, but what I'm saying is he's not going to be as expensive as somebody else. Like he's going to be able to still ride he's young enough where he still wants just the influence and the acquisition of power. He'll get his wealth with that.
He wants the money too. Believe me, he's been groomed for this since he rode his bicycle to the school after the shooting.
Right. How does anybody just justify their entire career on the backs of my dead friends?
Someone who doesn't care about human beings.
Yeah.
Who cares about his politics. Now, this is from the Daily Mail, by the way. And this is from David Hogg's X or Twitter account. April 22nd, I stand corrected. April 22nd, 2022. And again, his quote, and I will quote him directly here. I'm one of the most politically toxic people in the country, and I'm too radical for American politics. No, I'm not running for office. This is a man who just ran for an office, who got elected. He's representing the future of the Democratic Party. We have enough straight white men, which he is, in power. Yeah, it'd be nice to see some people who actually look like our country and not privilege. This is the man. This is what he said not 2 years ago. And this is the faction in our government that is seeking to oppress people. I mean, think about that. And this is the guy who says you don't have a right to defend yourself or your family, even as we have men and women being burned alive on the subway.
Right.
And we're being told you can't defend yourself. You don't have that right to defend yourself. But this guy who's politically admits he's a radical, politically toxic individual is saying, hey, no, you got to listen to me. I'm telling you, I know the right thing. I mean, that's just evil and wrong.
Yeah, not only that, you look at the other things that the DNC is doing, and it's like where we see all of this corruption coming out from the Doge, right? Which, for people that don't know, the Doge was actually renamed on Inauguration Day by executive order and is an actual federal department called the United States, the USDS, the United States Digital Service.
Okay.
It's had two heads. It's had two heads. Yeah. So, and it was from Obama, the Obama administration. He appointed at least one of the heads. And I think Joe Biden recently appointed the second. So it is an actual federal bureau that falls under the purview of the executive branch. So it has the legitimacy to go in and take a look at all of the records for auditing another federal agency.
Well,
So
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say these people like Raskin and them that are saying you don't have the power to close that. No, they don't have the power to close down the department. However, they do have the power to audit themselves. So, under the auspices of the authority of the president, who is the chief executive officer, this federal department has been tasked with overseeing and auditing another federal entity.
Right. It's at the pleasure of the president. The president has the right to have advisors and to create departments of the government. Mm-hmm. They have the authorization. They were instructed to do this by the president. Right. And they serve at the pleasure of the president for the next 18 months. Yep. Right? This is just an excuse to scare and fearmonger people.
Exactly.
I'd ask the question, why does the government need all that data on us anyway? What are they doing with that data?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, you're putting private citizens' data in the hands of billionaires, of a single billionaire. They already have it. The government's been stealing our information for years and selling it off to the highest bidder. I wouldn't be. Social Security numbers. China has them. The CCP has them.
Everyone has them.
Because the government got hacked.
Multiple
and they lost
times.
all that information. So you're talking about Social Security numbers, bank account numbers, driver licenses, everything. The CCP got everything.
Yeah, so they've already had those things. So that's just crazy.
Yeah. So our information's out there whether we like it or not. At this rate, the only thing that you're going to be able to do is LifeLock, and that's not an advertisement, by the way. We don't get advertisements from them. They're not subsidizing this. But services like LifeLock can make a killing now because your information's already out there. So now you have to get a private corporation to go out and clean up your mess.
Yeah, but it doesn't work because it's the federal government.
No.
So you can't block. The federal government's going to get it. LifeLock can't stop that. So they'll get customers, but can't stop anyone in the federal government. And we have many people who have given away federal secrets. And we know that the federal government's been hacked because they have outdated software, because the federal government doesn't change very quickly, or at least it hasn't been. So any of the information that Elon's looking at has already been looked at by many, many countries and people. Yeah. I'm not worried about that because Elon is he has no power to change anything. He has the power to recommend.
Right.
And that's fine. That's like any other advisor. Again, this is fear mongering because Orange Man Bad didn't work. Just saying that concept didn't work. And the Democrats don't know what else to attack on. And things are happening so fast, they can't keep up. They don't know what to attack on because everything that they have been, and many of the establishment on the right as well, everything that they have been kicking the can down the road on are now things that Trump is saying, let's actually deal with it. Let's actually address these issues and let me be transparent about these issues. This is what I promised. This is what I'm doing. And everyone gets to see it happening real time. And they don't know how to deal with it. It's like, did you hear about Gaza?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With his visit with Netanyahu, and he said that they were going to turn Gaza into an American-held territory or something.
Kind of almost exactly what he said. Frank, I don't know if you heard about this.
Yeah, I heard about it earlier today.
Okay.
And now, I'm like, well, he's a real estate developer. What are you going to do?
Yeah. But the problem is, I think most people have heard, like I covered this late last night. The news came out at about 9:30 last night. I don't know why it was so late in the night. Makes no sense. But it came out in the middle of the night. It's connected to the fact that the CIA is downsizing.
Right.
There are unknown numbers of people who are being asked to retire from the CIA. At the same time that Iran has now identified and said that they're freaking out because sanctions, all the sanctions that were under the first Trump administration, Trump 45, are now being put back on Iran because that's to stop terror, which Biden increased global terror. So sanctions are going back on. That's going to reduce their ability to promote global terror. And part of that movement, Trump didn't say he's taking over Gaza. He didn't say America is going to own it, which is basically the message going out right now that, oh, we're empire building. Trump's trying to take over nations. And no, and it's illegal. We can't forcefully take the land away from the Palestinian people. I've seen several news agencies say, you're violating international law because we're forcing the Palestinians out. No. Trump has never said that. What he said is they could temporarily relocate to Egypt and Jordan. Why? Those countries share the same history, the same ideology, the same religion, the same language. So their refugees can easily adapt temporarily as Trump and America go into Gaza, stimulating the U.S. economy, rebuilding all of it, giving them infrastructure, giving them water, electricity, all the things that they would need to have a higher quality of life and better housing. And that's good for America. And we would, of course, protect American builders, the construction. We would protect our people while we're rebuilding Gaza for the Palestinian people. And then they can come back in. Now, no one has ever offered the Palestinian people better housing, better water, better electricity, schools, hospitals, build everything up, rebuild and give them a modern place to live with all the amenities they could possibly want. No one has ever offered that to them. And you know why Hamas, Egypt and Jordan are saying, no, we don't want the refugees because they don't care about the Palestinian people. They never have. The Middle East has never cared about the Palestinian people. Never have. They're just a political hot potato. But Hamas and Iran are saying no to this because if we do this, if Trump does this, move the people out for a little while, build up everything, let them move back in, that will stop Hamas. That will actually kill off Hamas because the things that Hamas needs to keep getting these new recruits and to rebuild their army are people who are poor, starving, have nowhere to live, have horrible places to live, no real jobs, no opportunities, no future to look forward to. And they use these disenfranchised kids, child soldiers, and they build them up from as young as possible to be soldiers and suicidal soldiers as part of their terrorist organization. Trump has actually done the one thing no one expected. He's going to the root of what creates a terrorist. changing it all. He's giving them an environment where they are safe and can be well fed. They will have all of the amenities they need. The quality of life will be exponentially higher, which exponentially reduces the amount of people who would go into terrorism because they don't have a reason to. This is good for America because of that. It's therefore worthwhile. And he said he's willing to do it. He didn't say he was going to do it. He didn't say he's going to take over. But now they have to fearmonger, because if you do that, oh my God, we're not fighting. That's one of our terrorists off the board. That's one of the problems in the Middle East, off the board.
Well, that's
oh my God, the world will become significantly safer, and defense spending, military, drones, all that goes down. That's why you're seeing so many countries and so many political organizations say, no, 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 no. They want the status quo. They want the Palestinians fighting until the end of the universe because they don't care about them. They're just there to fight and die and be a reason to raise money and to maintain control in the Middle East and other areas around the world. That's what I truly believe. Do you guys disagree with me on any of that? My assessment.
I think the only way that you're actually going to see any kind of improvement in terms of stability and peace in the Middle East is if they go through with this idea of America rebuilding and basically owning Gaza, administering it directly as a U.S. territory. That would be the only way to make it act as a stable platform that freaks everybody else out in the Middle East, because all these bad actors that are funding terrorism, America's no longer across the ocean having to ask permission to go into other host countries. They have a staging area centrally located right there.
I don't know about making Gaza. What you're talking about is making Gaza a commonwealth, like Puerto Rico, like the Virgin Islands, like Samoa.
I'm trying to look for the quote that he had on Truth Social, because he was very clear in his quote that he said, if we were to do this, we would have to go in and own it. Those were his words.
I'm not against owning it. I'm not. I don't think we'll get the option. See, the biggest hurdle in this is that if we do it, it means that the Palestinian people have to recognize they have a way out of this vortex, this loop that they are in of eternal terrorism and subjugation by Hamas, which is in fact funded by Iran. So Iran, they can either continue to be puppets of Iran and maintain their government, which is Hamas, the terrorist organization. And that means they're going to constantly be at war, and their people will die and their kids will die. They'll have miserable lives forever. They can continue because no one's going to save them. Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Saudi Arabia, no one in the Middle East is going to save them because none of them care about them. And no one else in the world cares about them. That's just the truth. So they have the choice to stand up and say, yes, Mr. Trump, please do this. And then we get to make the terms.
Right.
Do I want them as Commonwealth? I personally don't want them as Commonwealth. I want them to make us a deal that we get a portion of all of since they'll be modernized, they'll be able to participate with the rest of the world. We get a portion of their profits. We will basically charge them. We'll be their landlord. They're going to pay us. They're paying us for the buildings. You can live there. You're paying us for the buildings and the power generation plants and the water plants that we'll be building in there for you. Great. You're always going to pay us, but you're free. Just get rid of Hamas.
Right.
This is their chance for freedom. And I don't think there's anyone else on the internet right now that is mentioning what we're talking about right now, that this is the chance for freedom for the Palestinian people. So everyone at Harvard and Columbia, they should be jumping on the bandwagon right now. They should be screaming that they want this to happen if they truly believe in helping the Palestinian people. Egypt and Jordan should be behind this because they don't want to keep the refugees. So they don't want the Palestinian people. They never have.
Right.
Everyone should.
Otherwise, they would have taken them in already.
Was that? Yeah, they could have taken them in decades ago. They don't care. They don't want them. No one wants them. That's why they're in Gaza right
the
now.
big irony is, though, too, there's a lot of Palestinian Christians that lived in Gaza at one point too. So you have the Christian population as well as the Islamic population that are both displaced.
Yeah.
And it would actually be kind of ironic, as if the invitation to return went out to the Christians first to bring them back in.
I don't know if that really matters as much in the way I'm envisioning it, in the way that we don't own it, and that it's they're basically, we're renting the buildings, not the land, the buildings back to them. That's how they pay us off, because I don't want them as a Commonwealth.
No,
I don't think it benefits us to have that land.
the only way I could see it benefiting us if we had that land is as a forward operating platform for national security. That would be the only
Israel for that.
I'm sorry.
Israel. We've got agreements with Israel for that.
True.
We don't need them. They're a problem. Now they're a long-term festering problem because of global terrorism, and they do attack American citizens, and they have killed American citizens.
Right.
As we saw with October 7th, 2023, and the hostages right now, which they've murdered almost every one of them except for 3. So 90% of all the hostages they killed. This is how we resolve that long-term problem. We give them that. And here's the other part of it. If they say no, if the Palestinian people say no, we don't want you to fix Gaza. We don't want you to give us the quality of life that everyone in Europe, first world nations have. Fantastic. You get no funding, nothing. We give you nothing. If you don't want to live a better life, then why are we giving you money in humanitarian aid? We don't need to give you anything. Cut them off. They get zero.
I don't know. Even if we went over there and we tried to rebuild everything for them and then have them move back in, even if we were renting them to have them pay us back, the culture that they have to date, it would be destroyed. It'd be like renting to bad tenants that would just put holes in your walls.
Maybe that's short term, but think of this: if you have a generation of kids, and the main thing that has been rebuilding Hamas over and over again, the kids are living in slums. They have nothing to look forward to,
right?
And they're being told, well, Hamas is saying, well, we can't give you anything in this life. Just go out and die for our religion, and in the next life you'll get 72 virgins. This is what they're being offered. This is the choice: fight and create a genocide and die and live in heaven wonderfully, and they have no future on earth.
Right.
And he's now Trump is saying, no, here's a future. You can have things. You can have a better life. I mean, that is the answer to terrorism. Give them a better life. They take terrorism and child soldiers. It's all because these are people who have no other option. They have no choice, or at least they feel like they have no choice. They have no options. There's nowhere to go. We're giving them somewhere to go.
Right.
And if they say no, fantastic. Then why are we giving you money at all? Because you don't intend to change. You don't intend to make better of yourself or your living condition. Then we don't have anything to do with you. And if you ever touch our people again, we'll bomb the living hell out of the entire place. We'll turn it to glass, because you're never going to be better. You are a festering infection on the earth, and we need to remove it. The in good way, we will excise it by giving you a better quality of life. That's medicine. Or we can cut you out. I have no problem with either option. This is the kindest way to do it. This is the generosity of America.
Yeah.
And Trump and MAGA people are being demonized for saying we want to give people hope. We want to give them better quality of life. A better quality of life that their neighbors who share the same politics, the same history, the same language, the same locality won't give them.
Right.
That's just insane to me.
Well, when you put it like that, that seems far more palatable than what's being shilled to everybody in the media, certainly, because they're talking about it as, see, MAGA, and especially Donald Trump is the warmonger that you always said he wasn't, and it's like,
Yeah, and he took
they've already blown the hell out of Gaza. There's nothing left.
Yeah, and
All
he's
that's left
going
is
to take
rubble.
over Greenland, and he's trying to take over Canada, and he took over Mexico. Except we got a deal in Greenland for rare earth metals that the environmentalists want because they need to have renewable energy and batteries. And Canada, well, they have a border that they haven't been securing. Guess what? Now they might. And in Mexico, we know for a fact they have a border that's been as open as it could possibly be with the help of the Mexican government. And they now put 10,000 troops up there. They're closing down the border at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's helping to protect Americans from human trafficking and drugs and illegal immigration. This is good for America's national security long term. And that, in fact, makes it better for Mexico, makes it better for Canada, makes it better for Greenland. He didn't, but he was accused of he's being evil. He's taking over the empire of America. No, he just made a bunch of deals. And he just used the full strength and power of the United States. I love this. This is the best government I have ever seen. This is 1 month, and I've never seen a president get as much done in 4 years as Trump has done in 1 month. Not even, in fact, it's not even a month yet. It's
it hasn't even been
2-3 weeks.
Now, here's a thought. You guys hear about, I think it's Bukele from El Salvador talking about taking all the criminal immigrants or the criminal aliens that home countries won't receive if they get sent back from the United States?
No.
So Bukele and President Bukele of El Salvador has said that he is opening their mega prisons to any of the deportees that are criminal aliens that their home countries will not receive. And he also said we could also extend that to the worst of convicted U.S. criminals too, if you wish.
Well, no, we can't.
And I was like, U.S. citizens going to El Salvador for prison? No, but the criminal aliens, that would be interesting to see.
Well, he's doing it because it's a gimmick to get money.
Yeah,
if we say yes, then we got to pay him for it, and the other governments around the world have to pay to get their people back. So it's a get rich. He wants to create a hotel for illegal aliens so his country can get paid money for it. I mean, it's pretty transparent there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't care where the illegal aliens go. We have no obligation to them. No. So I don't care where we send them. We can send them all to Antarctica for all I care.
We may not have to pay to house the illegals that we deport. I think what it would be is that if they were to receive the illegal aliens that they refused, the home countries refuse to accept, then it's Bukele will turn around and blackmail them and say, well, you know what? If you're not going to pay me to hold these people, then at an undisclosed place at an undisclosed time, I'm just going to drop them off in your country, and you'll have to find them again when they start committing crimes all over again.
No, I think El Salvador would instead say, well, if you don't want these people, then they're not your citizens because you have an obligation to your people. And if your people have been kicked out and they're trying to go home and you say no, then they're not your citizens. And therefore they have no country, so they have no rights. So I now have a new slave labor class of non-citizens. They belong to no country in the world, so I can use them up like slave labor to do anything and everything I need for the productivity of my country. That's what I think is the backup plan for El Salvador. If you're not going to pay me to either have them in prisons or to take them back, then they are non-citizens of the world. They have no rights. Therefore, they're slave labor, and I'll use them up and I'll use them up until they drop dead because no one's claiming them. I think that's what he's going to do. And if I were in El Salvador, I'm in a third world nation right now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, gee, my nation needs to develop infrastructure. We need to build roads and dig ditches for electric lines and water lines. And my people, well, I can't afford to really have them do all of that. Free labor, give me those illegal aliens. They don't belong to anyone else. Give them to me. Use them up until they drop dead.
Yeah, that would be
Frank. So I'm taking you agree with me, Frank?
in
Yeah,
a way that seems awfully evil, but I can't help but think that would be the best use for them, and that makes me, in a way, that makes me feel horrible.
well, I'm still someone who says, okay, if we repatriate these people from whence they came, but if you're stuck having to house them wherever they are, any country receiving foreign aid from which these people originally emanated from, find out what does it cost to house one of these individuals for a period of 1 year, and reduce the amount of foreign aid given to that particular country by thrice that number.
Yeah.
And say, okay, you are now paying for the housing of your citizen for the duration of time that they are to remain here, that you will not take them back, but you'll be paying for 3. So if it costs $30,000 a year to keep one in prison because he's a criminal alien, all right, you were receiving $90,000 less per year per each one of your citizens that's here in the country. And for those that are here receiving public assistance, you will be reducing by thrice the amount they receive public assistance from your foreign aid packages. There's 1,000,001 ways that you can get these people to be repatriated back to their homeland if you understand the power of negotiation and the fact that since we don't owe them anything, nor do we owe their parent country anything, we are in the position of authority. But that's it's getting done. That's all I know. And everybody's well, they're only targeting brown people.
No, they're not.
That's not true.
They're targeting criminal illegal. They know where the criminal illegals are. Where they go, well, I don't see them deporting anybody from Australia. They're not deporting anybody from China. They're only deporting brown people. It's a week.
Well, no,
2 weeks that they've been doing it.
That's not even it. It's the news media isn't showing you that picture. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
They're just not showing you the picture because the news media has a political agenda. It's not that. How many times have we?
Well, I'm laughing. I pick up the Instagram thing, right, and I see all of these people bitch, moaning, and complaining about they're passing by construction sites, going, these construction sites are usually teeming with South American immigrants building these houses, and look, nothing's being worked on, nothing's this, nothing that, and they're doing it live on a Sunday. Okay, all right. Now
it's the little details. It's those little things. Oh,
and I'm seeing these videos of these contractors now. Being in the industry for over 20 years, I have a little taste of how it goes. Complaining that they can't get their jobs done because all the immigrants are gone. They're all afraid to come to work. They're this, they're that, and this and that. I want everybody to look up a phrase called prevailing wage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I don't want you to understand what prevailing wage is and what happens when you buy a home and how prevailing wage equates into the price of that home. Now, say you have your framing crew, the guys who've put up the frame of your house. Your contractor, the developer, the builder, whomever it is, they put the house together. They've got a price set for what they're willing to pay each member of the framing crew for that house that's being constructed. And let's just say it's $23 an hour that they're willing to pay the framer. Now, the developer is not directly paying the framer. He's paying the company that's providing the framer. The company that provides the framer is charging him a fee of $25 an hour per every framer, so that the company makes $2 an hour for every framer that's on the job for every hour that they're there. So the builder is being charged $25 an hour. He's building that number into the price of the home that you buy. So they calculate how many hours of framing it's going to take, to multiply that by $25. That's how much money the labor portion of the framing is going to cost you. And this is the same for plumbing, electrical, siding, sheetrocking, insulation, concrete workers, stonemasons, glaziers, everybody who's on the thing. They have their own wage, the prevailing wage built into the contract. The subcontractor is the one that's hiring the workers. They are paying the fee that you already paid. So the subcontractor goes, and whether he hires a bunch of illegals to build your house at $11 an hour, or he pays an American crew the $23 is stipulated in his contract that he's charging $25 an hour for, the end price in the house doesn't change, because the developer is only willing to pay up to, including a certain amount of money per hour to have that house framed. So everybody's saying, oh, well, the houses are going to cost more. No, the housing price has already been determined. The house price has already been determined because the developer had to get a loan in order to build those houses. A number of houses at a set price in the contract. The person who loses money on the deal is not the buyer of the house. It's the subcontractor who's illegally hiring people to come in and build the house at a slave wage instead of paying a legal American or at least a resident alien who's legally allowed to work in the United States at prevailing wage. They are paying far below it. So your subcontractor, who's the guy who's going over to Home Depot at 5 o'clock in the morning and rounding up 6 or 10 illegals, throwing them in the back of a pickup truck, he brings them to the job and shows them what they got to do. That's the guy who's breaking the law. That's the guy who is charging the subcontractor $22 an hour. He's paying $10. So if he brings 10 guys to the job, that's $200 an hour that he's paying $100 out of his pocket now for those guys, and he's pocketing $100 an hour for the 10 guys he brought to the job. So he pockets $800 a day to deliver illegal aliens to you. Where does that money go? That money going in his pocket. It's illegal money. That's how it happens. The price of the house doesn't go up. Now, here's the other thing about the housing market that all of these people that are complaining don't understand. When you go to get your mortgage and you say, hey, I'd like to buy this house, it's $450,000. I have 10% down. Here's my $4,500. My $45,000 down. The house is $450,000. I'd like to be able to mortgage $405,000 to buy that house. The bank sends somebody out to look at the house called an appraiser. And the appraiser determines how much the house is worth. If the house is worth the $450,000, they will give you the loan for it. So no builder is going to build you a house that he has got to charge so much money for that the bank refuses to acknowledge the value of the house. He's not going to sell you a $450,000 house for $600,000 because he knows the bank will not underwrite that. They will not underwrite that loan because you're immediately underwater by $150,000 in equity that you will never see. Right. So for all those people that are complaining about how the prices are going to go up, let me tell you something. The market will determine what the price of the house is. And the only thing that's going to change is how much money is being pocketed by the people who were providing illegal aliens to provide labor. Yeah. So for that friend of yours, that's a scab contractor that likes to sub out all the jobs to a bunch of people that he doesn't even speak the same language as, he's the guy losing money. You're not paying more money for the house. You're not paying more. You're paying the same price as you would have because the prevailing wage is built into the price of building the house. It's what things cost. It depends on who you're paying. Right. So there's nonsense about all of this shit. Oh, prices are going up. Prices are doing this, that. The only thing people are saying, well, Chuck Schumer was out there the other day holding a guacamole, holding a what do you call it, an avocado and a can of coffee.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, your guacamole prices are going to go up, and your coffee prices are going to go up." Let me tell you what's going to happen with Colombia.
It already happened.
Coffee is my number one beverage of the day. My number two beverage of the day. It's the number 16 beverage of the day. I drink 3-4 pots a day. I'm a coffee fanatic. I can't tell the difference between Bolivian coffee, Brazilian coffee, Colombian coffee, French coffee, Italian coffee. Wherever coffee grows, dry that shit out, grind it up, put some water through it, and I'll drink it. I don't care. So when they say, oh, the price of coffee is going to go up, you know what it's going to do? Price of coffee goes up in one country, the price of coffee goes down in another because someone is going to want to compete for that business. Because when coffee gets excessively high in one country, they will lose the amount that they're going to export because someone else will fill the void at a lower price. Free market, that's how it works. And as far as complaining about avocado, not once in my life of 52 3/4 years have I ever sat at a table with a bunch of family or friends in a restaurant or any sort of social setting and said, you know, some guacamole would be good right about now. Guacamole has never made an improvement on my life. I don't give a shit about guacamole. I don't care about guacamole. And for those people who live for guacamole, pay more for it. I don't care because it doesn't make a difference to me one way or the other. If there's something I like that costs more to get, I'll pay for it. If there's something you like that costs more to get, you pay for it. You know why? Because that's called the free fucking market. That's why I'm willing to pay $10 for a pack of cigarettes because I smoke. Somebody who doesn't smoke wouldn't give you a dime for them, but I do, so I pay for it. You don't have to worry about it. You want guacamole, pay for it. I want coffee, I'll pay for it. That's right. A free friggin' market.
And ultimately, one of the things that will happen eventually, once the food crisis and everything balances itself out, is that if we go ahead and increase our production of energy, say, which energy costs underlie all pricing. Mm-hmm. So if we can create a higher supply of energy, and we can move it cheaply, all the other prices start to drop.
Yeah, but even before all of that, here's the thing: when we're talking about tariffs, and folks, we're talking about tariffs essentially,
right?
The thing about tariffs is their purpose is to stimulate the country, the home country, where the tariffs are being issued from. In other words, Trump is trying to get you to buy American. Mm-hmm. See, America, we grow avocados. California grows avocados. If you're damn desperate to have guacamole, you can, because we have California farmers who grow avocados. You can buy them, or you can pay an extra 25 cents per avocado and you can buy some foreign avocados. Your choice. But because the avocados are more expensive, you may want to buy, and a lot of people who are into guacamole, they're going to go for the cheaper avocado. Businesses will go for the cheaper avocado. That's American. Therefore, it helps American farmers, it helps American businesses, and America does better. That's the point. Now, yes, it's a little bit painful for the people who don't want to buy American, who don't want to support our own country. That's right. Why a tariff exists. If you don't want to support your home country, you're going to pay more for that right. You have the right. And it's, again, like Frank said, free market. Your choice.
And meanwhile, as far as coffee goes, then there's one son of a bitch out there picking them beans. One Valdez. Yeah. Juan Valdez. His name is Juan Valdez, and he picks every goddamn bean by hand. That was the commercial that I grew up with. Yeah, okay, so you got one guy. If Juan maybe puts his two kids to work, and the burro.
Yeah, the burro.
The burro. The burro is very good. Very good burro. Very strong. If they put his two kids to work, we could get triple the manpower out there, getting them coffee beans to the market, and maybe the price will drop down. But listen, fellas, it's 9:25. I'm going to leave you guys to do what you got to do. I got 3 dogs over here doing the little happy dance. I just want to share one quick thing with you. On my front porch, there's a little bin, right, that you keep like gardening supplies with and everything else.
Mhm.
And on top of that bin is a sign that says, Amazon and other delivery drivers, please do not place deliveries inside this box. Very simple. Put it on top, put it next to, whatever. I just had something delivered while the show was going on. Dogs are going crazy. And I don't know if it's a delivery guy or not. And I go and I look and I hit the Amazon track button and it says, oh, your Amazon delivery was just done.
Yeah.
You know how they send you a picture of the delivery?
It's your box.
He sent a picture of the box with the sign that says, please do not place deliveries inside the box. That's the box that's the picture that they sent. Let me see if I can, hold on a second. Let me see if I can blow this up and see if I can't share this, because I saw this and I said, this is just too damn funny.
Oh man.
Yeah, I looked. This is, you can't really read what it says right there, but do you see any packages?
No.
No, because they're inside the box that says do not put inside the box. And this is the picture that the delivery driver decided to send back. Now, I'm probably almost certain that he couldn't read what the box said because it is kind of dimly lit out there. But just the irony of that.
How do you say that you didn't know how to follow directions in school without saying you didn't follow directions in school?
Yeah, I don't know. And the other day, Lori sent me the picture of the video of the Ring doorbell of the 2 house painting solicitors that avoided the sign at the beginning of the HOA, the sign at the end of the driveway, the sign at the top of my walkway, and then finally got to the doormat that said, no, seriously, no soliciting. Fuck around and find out. That's my doormat. They finally saw that and they laughed and they left. But they left their card. They were nice enough not to ring the bell because I was sort of sleeping at the time. They left the card in the little loop at the bottom of the handrail. So when it's time to repaint, I will be calling them. Because of all the people who ignored all the signs when they finally saw the last one that they knew I was serious, those are the only ones so far that respected my wishes. The next sign is going to be, if the next one is going to, I'm going to have a sign made up and put on the front door that says, no soliciting. However, if you insist on ringing my bell, you are hereby agreeing to pay $50 for every minute I have to listen to your sales pitch.
There you go.
Oh,
and
nice.
Because as far as I'm concerned, if you press that button, ta-da, you just made a verbal contract.
Yeah.
You just read the words and you have acknowledged it by pressing the button. I have you on video pressing the button. So I will just open the door with my hand out and say, how long do you plan on being here? Because you've read these are the terms of my contract that you've agreed to. I think as soon as I charge somebody $500 once, that'll pretty much put an end to it.
You're gonna get on the do not disturb list ever.
Yeah, our whole HOA is on that list, but nobody ever pays attention. All right, listen, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Leave you guys to some nice fun banter. I'll see you guys next week. Remember, you guys, be safe, shoot straight. Everybody in the audience and everybody at home, love you guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time.
See you later, Frank.
All right, Frank. So it's been a hell of a week, like I said, when we're looking at what's going on with Gaza. Now, I got to say, I am, as much as I love so many things that Trump has been doing, and I am caught up in the same whirlwind. I mean, I understand. You would think the mainstream news media, they've got 10, each and every one of the major news media, New York Times, ABC,
Right.
CNN. They all got 10,000 employees around the world. Most of them in the United States. Many of them in New York City.
Right.
But they've got thousands, 10,000 employees each. They're making tens of millions of dollars. You would think they would be able to keep up with what Trump is doing. You would think they would be able to do so, that they could post it and do a summary or post it online in an article or something. They could do that. You've got 10,000 people working for you. Somebody should be able to, I'll follow. He just did a tariff with Canada. That's mine. I'll go get that. He did a tariff with Colombia. I'm going to go do that. They've got enough people to handle each issue.
Right.
They don't, which means they want purposefully, they want the American people confused. They purposefully are so badly organized and so dedicated to a political agenda that they don't know how to respond, because the thing that's delaying them, and I think this is important to acknowledge, what's delaying these news media in getting the stories out is and making it clear for people what's going on, is they need to put a spin on it. They're trying to figure out how to spin it. It's kind of like when they're talking about, oh my God, Chuck Schumer's talking about, oh my God, you won't be able to get any more avocados. First of all, that's a preppy upper income, progressive liberal thing to have their avocado toast. Because guess what? Come to the Bronx. No one's eating avocado toast. It's not, no one cares.
Yeah.
But they want you to think, oh my God, you're going to supper. Hey, why didn't you just say buy American? Which is good for America. He's a senator, one of the major senators in the United States. You would think he would say, for his constituents, for the benefit of the American economy, for poor people all across America, for the farmers.
Yeah.
Hey, buy American. We grow avocados too. There's almost nothing in the world, almost nothing that we, as America, as a nation, that we don't have. We may not have a lot of it, but we have it. Promote it.
Right. Well, it's just like when I found out that many of New York's apples, right, get shipped overseas for processing. They don't even do them here. So we have mills here. We have places that make things like applesauce and apple products and so on. But a vast majority of our apples here in New York get shipped to processing plants in China.
Yeah.
Currently, to be made into the same things that we could make here, but they ship, and somehow they ship them back cheaper, probably because they pay their workers less.
Yeah,
and a lot of that business is subsidized by the government there.
Well, they subsidize it. They add other fillers. A lot of the foods that we get, and people don't realize how much food gets shipped out to China to be processed and then back. And that's not just the United States. A lot of countries do this.
Which I never agreed with. Like, I always thought it was stupid. It's like, if you can make it here, make it here.
Yeah, but what they do is they go to China and the workers are paid dirt, literal dirt. And they add in fillers and other items, chemicals and processing that you can't do in America.
Right.
That would be virtually illegal here. And they do that. Remember when we had they had lead in the milk?
Yeah.
Okay. And the rice was contaminated.
Yeah. Didn't it have what was it? It was arsenic.
Yeah. Arsenic in the rice and lead in the milk. That was American milk. That was American rice. We shipped it to China to process it, to send it back to us. They screwed up because they basically treated our products like they treat the rest of the world. Products that go to Africa and other nations, which have lower standards, sent it to them, and they wound up poisoning us. But it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have to pay anyone. It was dirt, and they do it by huge volume. And that's how they get away with it. It's not in the best interest. One point
that you made about the tariffs, where it's supposed to stimulate growth in the home economy, right? By allowing people
long-term effect, yes.
Long-term, right. Well, the only downside to that, and the thing that usually gets in the way, is more government regulation.
Yes.
Tariffs work when
Mhm.
you have a free market at home that breeds competition within industries. The people that are going to suffer the most are the ones that are living in states like New York, New Jersey, Washington, California, Oregon, where the government regulates who can open a small business and how successful they are. So if you go to a state that has a more free economy, like more free market based model, you're barely going to notice the tariffs, except for the fact that your prices are going to go down. Like your monthly expenditures are going to go actually down, not up, because you're going to be buying American, and there are going to be industry startups that are going to occur within the first 5 years, say, and after a while, you're going to see your monthly expenditures drop because you're buying American products from American companies that are competing with one another.
Kind of, but most tariffs don't last 5 years.
No, they don't.
Because tariffs are, there's two purposes for the one. It's political. It's a political cudgel. And the other thing is to change the habits of your population.
Yeah.
So again, to get them to buy more American, you make it more expensive to buy anything else. That will help to motivate them to buy the cheaper American product. The problem with this is that usually that is effective until politicians, and more likely unions, say, there's a gap between our price and another nation's price, and we can fill that gap with a higher union pay.
Yeah.
And they increase their fee so that the U.S. price now matches the import price with the tariff. And so
Right.
they're the same price.
Yep.
And when you think about that, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because eventually, if that tariff ever gets removed, that foreign, assuming that the foreign nation doesn't have a union as well, and most don't.
Yeah, they don't.
When they drop that tariff, their price now becomes lower than the American price.
Mm-hmm.
And we now continue the process that was the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
It's the greed of the unions that almost always interferes with this free market benefit. The process that says, okay, buy American. American's cheaper. Yes. Union. Oh, we can raise our price. Tell the business to raise the prices and pay us more money, because obviously, look, TVs, I don't care, whatever product it is, but I'm going to say TVs, they cost $2,000, but people could buy American TVs for $1,800. That's $200 you can tack on, give it to the union, because if the rest of the world's paying it costs $2,000 for the rest of the world, you have room to pay me. You're underpaying me. You're being a cheapskate. This is what the news media will say. This is how they will quote the union, saying American workers are being cheated out of a good day's pay, and those evil fat cat billionaires are stealing money from American citizens because they're not giving people the full context. The price of the American product goes up. The tariff goes away because a new president, a new Congress, whatever, comes into power. They change the rule. They drop the tariff. The foreign product now drops its price. Now it's $1,600 versus a $2,000 American TV. America loses, but the union keeps getting paid.
And
it's stupid.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, it's self-defeating.
Yes,
what it is, and
it's because of the politics. Because unions do that because of the politics, and they're taking advantage of what people don't understand. And the news media doesn't inform anyone that that's what they've done, and they blame it on rich people. They blame it on whichever political parties out of favor or in favor at the time, whomever it works against, and they blame them. And people go, "Oh, well, those evil rich bastards." And I always love this argument. Oh, those evil rich bastards. What, you want to be poor? Are you kidding me? You want to live in the ghetto? You want to be ghetto fabulous? Are you kidding me?
it's
Not
one
a
of those
reward.
things. It's one of those things where there was a time and place where you needed a union to come together, at least temporarily, to try and fight for safer working conditions. If you were, say, in a coal mine that was cheaply put together,
1920s, yeah.
right? And you're collectively trying to strike against somebody that's going to hire private security that has no problem beating the crap out of you for not working, right? I mean, that's what the Pinkertons were. That's what a lot of these private security forces were. They were basically just hired thugs that were meant to either get the people back to work or at least protect the people that were going to replace them to come in and work in their place. What they call scabs, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of get that collective bargaining has a place, but there shouldn't be a bureaucratic institution that stands between a person that wants to labor and their paycheck. And that's what a union is. What a union is just a large bureaucratic political institution that is just one more stop between you and your paycheck. So the government takes a piece, the union takes a piece, and the union and the government are working together. And then in some ways, the corporation and the union heads are working together. So,
Well, unions are a corporate. People have the wrong understanding. The unions were great in the 1930s. Absolutely. Ending child labor,
yeah,
getting people a 40-hour work week, vacations that are paid for, benefits. Absolutely. That's all done and said by the 1950s.
yep,
That's it. All the innovations, all the corrections, all the things that we think of about unions were done by about the 1950s. And after that, after about the 1960s, the only thing unions fight for is more money.
right.
You've already got all the benefits, all the hard work, all the things that really were necessary for unions is already done.
Yeah.
It's been done for almost 100 years. They don't serve that purpose anymore. All they are right now is they are another corporation and they are out for profit, which is why they take the fees of every one of their employees and they spend it for a political agenda that serves not the political employees. It serves the
Union.
corporation, which is the union. Why do they only donate to, or virtually only donate to, Democrats? Why? Because Democrats kick back and support unions on increasing their fees every time they can. It's a loop.
Yeah,
It's a feedback loop. It's
a union is the one group that doesn't produce anything but still demands your money. They're like mini government with mandatory taxation.
no, they're a mafia, and they're getting their vig off of your work.
What is the government but mafia?
Well, that we can argue about, but unions really are a mafia because they don't. Again, they used to serve a purpose. So
Right.
did the mafia when it was first initiated.
Right.
And now, no, they're just there to get money. They're just there to get paid. They really don't. There's nothing new that they're doing for any of the workers.
Right.
They just get more money because they want more fees. That's it.
And I think another problem is that people think a fair day's wage is a living wage, and they hear all these buzz terms thrown around. Really, your wages, your salaries are based upon, or should be based upon, your level of production without the risk. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you are not a business owner, right, you assume very minimal risk when it comes to operating that said business. Your value to that company, your value to that business is in what you produce for them. So your wages and your salary are contingent on being able to put out a certain yield of product or service that makes you a value added part of that business. Right?
Right.
If you can't hack it, then you don't get that pay. And you can't go and ask for a raise because you're not adding value to a business that you really don't have a stake in. If you were to leave tomorrow, that business will not necessarily disappear unless that business only has like 3 employees, in which case then now they're down like a quarter of their workforce. But I'm talking about if I were to quit my job tomorrow, my leaving does not reduce the value of that company, right? And my work there, the only value added work that I add to that is just a body that produces a certain quality of product. Their volume might be reduced temporarily, but they'll fill that void again tomorrow. Mine is not a high skilled, well, it's a skilled labor position, but it's not a high skilled labor position where my input is so much value added that I can command a 6-figure salary.
You're not a rocket scientist.
Yeah, I just don't have that. I'm a $30,000 a year guy, if anything. And there have been years where I can remember, especially during Obama's term, where my yearly pay came back as $6,000. Like,
Obama doesn't understand. Democrats don't understand the things they talk about.
No,
I mean, they're out of touch. We saw that with Pelosi talking about, hey, look at my refrigerator. It's filled with Haagen-Dazs and all this ice cream.
$150
I don't know why people are complaining. You get to hear them talking about avocados without mentioning American farmers. You get to hear them talking about, again, this Saturday, they're trying to tell us that there's good billionaires and there's bad billionaires, and Democrats only take money from good billionaires. By the way, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they're all Democrats.
Yeah.
And they have been giving to Democrats for decades. Oh, there's an oligarchy. You had all these people working with the Democratic Party, donating to the Democratic Party. Was it an oligarchy then? Was the country being controlled by the tech bros then? Because they were people. You just screwed up. The Democrats screwed up so bad that your people said, it's not going to work anymore. I need to do something different. But now that their people went off the reservation, which is the number one thing the Democrats hate.
That's the high carnal sin. Never leave.
The ultimate sin. You are going to be excommunicated, and they're pissed about it because you went to the other side. And there's nothing more evil than that. And now all of these Democrats who are supporting Republicans in making America great are evil, and they have to be demonized. It's their people, whom they abandoned. Same thing about RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. Guess what? RFK Jr., Democrat, a progressive Democrat at that. Tulsi Gabbard, moderate Democrat, deep Democrats. They are demonizing them. Why? It's their people. They threw them out.
Speaking of RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, I heard that the committees have gone ahead and sent their confirmations for a floor vote. But have you heard anything else from that? Because I haven't. But
they're keeping it quiet for the time being. It is my deep understanding. Hang on 1 second. I cannot say, I don't have a source on this. I do know sources in Congress on both parties, just in the House, but I do have some sources that are connected to our politics in Congress. I haven't heard anything from them. It is my understanding, RFK Jr. will get confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard won't.
Really?
Tulsi Gabbard will go back to Hawaii and she will run for governor, just like Vivek Ramaswamy is going to run for governor of Ohio. RFK will get in. Now, whether or not they slow walk the Department of Health and Human Services to make RFK look embarrassed and to try and stop Trump and him at the same time by letting them get the job and then showing him as a failure, that's what I'm guessing is what the Democrats are going to do. They can't honestly say, especially after the display with what's his name, Bernie Sanders. After that embarrassment, oh, you're just so evil. Look at what you're doing. You're making money off of these lawsuits, trying to get big pharma to stop poisoning people sometimes. How dare you do that? You're taking money from them. Well,
Yeah.
Bernie, you take money from big pharma too. So
Yeah.
does Elizabeth
Oh.
Warren.
But not the
Oh,
executives. Oh, no,
What
no.
are you talking about? that third house. You can't blame that third house I now own as a
Oh my God.
communist.
I was on Twitter and I just had to post that it's like you just proved that you sold yourself as a two-bit prostitute for the DNC to remain relevant.
Exactly. And
This
he's
is
fucking-
this is just proof that you really have no credibility whatsoever.
he hasn't had credibility since 2016 when he sold out to get his second house
Yeah.
when he endorsed Hillary Clinton. And that's when he got a second house. He's since gotten a third house. And you haven't heard Bernie talking about Bernie bro crap since 2016. Now he has a third house. I think he's probably going for a fourth house. I don't know why a communist, a self-avowed communist, has to have four houses that are not available to the public. I don't know why he needs to have so much property as a multimillionaire. But
Oh, he's got to have bolt holes in case they come after him.
I don't know. It's just amazing.
You'll never know which house I'm in. I could be in one of four. You'll have a 1.25 chance of fighting me.
Yeah, like he runs or something. I mean, it's
as fast as Biden does.
But I think it's. I love that, and I don't agree with every option that Trump has been doing.
Yeah.
To the degree, maybe, or the way he's worded it, sometimes it makes me have a little pause. But I have to say, I love the transparency.
Yeah.
We've never had more understanding, and I don't mean, oh, but NBC said, Trump said, no. He's already made it public. He's making it public what he's saying, and he's saying it in detail. I mean, you listen to.
I think he
again
learned.
Going back to Gaza.
Yeah.
Oh, Trump is trying to create an empire. It's like when he tried to buy Greenland, and he's trying to take over Mexico and Canada. He's never said that.
Yeah.
Notice he said, if the Palestinians want better homelands, if America can work on rebuilding Gaza. That's an if. He said if. It's not, ooh, we're taking it. If they allow us to do these things, and then we can have these benefits, which include long-term benefits that no one wants to talk about. Oh, if Canada decides to keep an open border and endanger America, they're going to pay a tariff. If they help to secure the border, they don't pay the tariff. If Mexico does it, and I've heard a lot of people go, see, he did nothing. Mexico and Canada, they did nothing, and Trump backed down. There's 10,000 troops on the southern border, and they're not American. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
They're trying to spin this but yet the transparency is there. Look at the international news. Listen to the actual speeches. We've heard it. Listen to the world leaders. They are reacting. They're telling us. As much as we're hearing the progressive movement, the left try and tell us, no, you just don't understand. Yeah, just like when you told me, I just don't understand that Joe Biden is a mental genius. I just don't understand that Bidenomics is making me rich. I just don't understand about the racism and sexism that I must have because I didn't vote for Kamala. Oh, yeah. I just don't understand. I'm an intelligent 57-year-old man. And I have no clue. I can't imagine how I made it to this far in my life without the Democrats guiding me all the way from the cradle to the moment to this moment. I just don't know how I survived.
No, and that's. I understand where Frank's coming from with people like you and I that are still here in New York, and for me, I wouldn't mind moving back to Pennsylvania, but you know what? I've invested in being here. Before all, before the authoritarianism just went off the charts. And now I don't really have the ability to leave. I mean, I could get out whenever, whenever, if I was willing to literally cut my losses and just let whoever buy the property that I own and bulldoze the place to a parking lot and probably take it at a significant loss. But in a way, it just rubs me the wrong way to be running.
Well, no. You know what? New York State I have lived a lot of places.
Yeah.
But I recently, over the last 20 years, lived in New York State, which is this is where I grew up in New York State. But in the last 20 years, was upstate New York, had a business, was doing well, bought a home.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Bought furniture, bought a lot of equipment to facilitate my business. And I was doing all right. I was living middle class, maybe upper middle class. I was doing all right. And New York made it nearly impossible, actually very much impossible for me to maintain that business. And then New York made it very difficult for me to be able to be employed. And then when I was employed in a couple of businesses, because of New York State policies, very similar to California policies, very similar to Illinois and Washington State and Maryland, these policies they put in place shut down the business that I was working at. Not that I got fired. I didn't. No, they killed the underlying business I worked for, and they went out. And this happened 3 times in the last 20 years. The businesses I was working at, one of them very large, 2 of them mid-sized, major corporations across America, and they shut down in New York State, which then said, okay, I couldn't keep the house. I lost the house. I lost everything. Some people know I lost 95, 98% of everything I owned.
Yeah.
There are people who've seen, yes, I'm not lying about that. That's not figurative. That's literal. Yep. I lost everything, walked away, and I barely had everything I can carry in my hands. That's about it.
And for full disclosure, folks, I was nearly his neighbor 1 county over. So I saw what happened to him. So yes.
I'm not lying when I say I basically walked away with the clothes on my back and a bag, and pretty much that's it.
Yeah.
Because of New York State. I'm not the only one. There are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of stories just like me. And yes, my fallback was, okay, I had family that kept me in New York State because my family's been in New York State and in New York City for 50 years. Mm-hmm. So actually almost 60 years. So yeah, I had somewhere to fall back. And the only reason why I'm still in New York State is because that's my fallback.
Right.
But I guarantee you, some of the ventures I'm working on right now, they work out. I'm not staying. Why? Every time I stay, the longer I stay here, the worse the state makes it for me to make my living. And it's not like, as an exchange, I get to go on a subway and it's safe. No, it's not. People are being burned alive. It ain't safe at all. No, well, Mike, you're a man. You don't have to worry. No one's going to burn you alive. No, they'll shoot me instead.
Or shove you in front of a train.
Or shove me in front of a train.
Yeah.
We're seeing all of these dangers that are going on. People getting randomly stabbed. I'm not getting anything for this. And even it's gotten so bad that the bleed over effect has started to affect not just the cities, not just, Albany or Rochester or New York City. It's affecting the smaller places. If I'm not mistaken, in the last 30 days in Binghamton, New York, which is in Broome County, where I used to live, 6 grown adults, normal, regular adults. We're not talking about individuals who have mental issues. We're not talking about people who are disabled in any way. Regular adults who've been living their life in Broome County, 6 of them disappeared.
Yeah.
3 of them have been found
Yeah.
dead.
Yep.
There seems to be a problem when more than one person, and people say, well, it's only 6 people. You're talking about a town of some 30,000 people where you lose people disappear maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Not 6 people in less than 30 days. And then 3 of them show up dead. This is the bleed over from what we're seeing in New York City and in Albany and in Rochester. Why do we stay in New York? They're not making it safer for us.
No. Well, even in our town. So our town's probably got a population. I don't want to be too inaccurate, but I would guess that we probably are about 5 to 10,000 people max in where I live, right? Which is near the town of Owego, and it's about half an hour away from Binghamton.
Right.
And even in this small area, which is slowly becoming a suburb of Binghamton and the Triple Cities,
Pretty much, yeah.
there has been a rise in home break-ins and theft. And just the other night, our neighbor's house went up in flames right next door. They still have not ruled out arson as a reason for that fire to go on. Now, I haven't been updated as to how far the investigation's going, but we were in communication with the landowner, who is actually on the other side of the house that caught fire. And of the 3 houses, we have seen more rise in crime and tragedy on just my street. Now, I don't know what to attribute it to, but it certainly isn't normal. And I've lived here for almost 15 years, 16 years.
Well, remember, we were promised after 2020, we were promised this is the era of the new normal.
Yeah.
Ushered in by the Biden-Harris administration. This is the new normal because we have to be, this is what the progressives wanted. This is about the feelings, and this is about truth is subjective. This is the world that was created for us. And it's magnified in New York, California, Illinois. Why do I keep mentioning some of these top 10 bluer than blue states? Because they are the hyper focus of this. They are the ones that show the early signs of the rot. And I can't point to Kansas. I can't point to Idaho. I can't point to Tennessee and show you the same thing happening because it's not there yet.
Yeah.
It will get there. Trust me, you're not saved. As we see people running away from these cities and these states, Texas is becoming purple. Why?
Yeah.
Because the people who left California because it has failed, ultimately, utterly failed the people of California, they're leaving in droves and going to Texas, places like Austin, except they're not changing their politics.
Right.
So Texas is the next domino to fall and become just as corrupted, just as much of a failure. But you know what?
Unless you as a person that lives in that state, either coming from another state who did change their political voting habits for the better, right? Or you live in that state and you become hyperactive, like very much so that you are always on top of your governance and you are super involved, and you say, we will not tolerate that stuff here ever. And you make sure that all of your neighbors are in agreement and that you constantly are in contact with one another and you're constantly discussing it with each other and you're on top of it every single day. You at least touch base once a day with everybody that you know in your community, and from the community up to the state level, you constantly are active in your own governance. Then you might have a chance of not having the rot hit your state.
Maybe. No, we gotta stop. I gotta mention something. People think when you say that, oh, you've got to be constantly involved with it. You've got to be on top of it. And I know a lot of people will tell me, Mike, I can't do that. I can't do that every day. I can't be on top of this. How? I don't have the time. First thing, yeah, you do have time. It's just bad time management. Second thing, you don't have to watch 3 episodes of Housewives of wherever the hell and 90 Day Dumbass Fiance. You don't have to watch that every day, binging all the way through. You can take an hour, a half hour out to learn about what's going on the issue that matters to you. You can.
Right. It doesn't have every issue.
Yeah. And then to follow that up, and you're talking to your friends every day.
Right.
You make your phone calls to your friends maybe every other day, but you're talking to people, you're on social media, you're texting people constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the communication. They think of it like, oh, I've got to do something different. I've got to get up and go to Albany or wherever your capital is in your state, and I've got to go out there and I've got to go and protest in the middle of the winter. No, you don't.
No.
You just need to talk to people that you normally talk to. And in your normal conversation, hey, by the way, did you see Trump? The tariff worked.
Yeah.
Because it did. It achieved the goal. The border is getting closed. Not, Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. But it's better than it's been.
Yeah.
And that means less overdoses. That means less human trafficking, otherwise known as slavery. It means less fentanyl. It means less illegal aliens that are costing $5 billion. Yesterday, New York City asked for another $1.1 billion for illegal aliens. Imagine if you spend another $1.1 billion on feeding all the hungry kids in New York City, if not New York State. $1.1 billion to take care of veterans that are homeless or have mental issues. Or, hey, let's try and spend $1 billion more on taking care, making sure people get their medications they need so they don't push people off of in front of trains that are running. We could use an extra $1 billion. I have no question on that. But why am I spending it on someone who broke the law, who didn't respect America or the American people enough to follow the law, broke in, and then stood in your face and said, not only did I break through your door, now you're going to go and make me some food and make a bed and give me somewhere safe to sleep, and you're going to put money in my pocket. Imagine if someone did that. Can you imagine someone came to your door, kicked the door down, walked into your house, said, go make me a meal, go make your bed is now my bed, and I want some pocket money so I can go and buy stuff. That is illegal immigration. That is exactly what is happening. The difference is it's happening on a bigger scale than just you and me. People don't realize that. And this is the conversation that we can have with everyone.
Yeah.
Real simple. Clip what I just said.
Yep.
Someone just kicked down your door, walked in. You're supposed to cook them a meal with your food. You're supposed to give them your bed, and you're supposed to take money out of your pocket that you just came home from work with and give it to them so they can go spend it on whatever they want. And they're calling, and they're going to use your phone to call up their friends and family and say, hey, come over to this person's house because you can live here too. And they're going to give you more of their money. No one would say yes to that. No one. Why are we doing it as a nation?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
I've asked that same question, and the answer I always get back is either a bunch of verbal diarrhea, or with a lot of buzzwords and a lot of virtue signaling, or it's because it's the right thing to do.
No, it's not.
And I'm like,
it's not.
So, I always respond to that with, well, if you think it's the right thing to do, then I want you to go home tonight, take your front door off its hinges, remove the screen door, open up your back door, and leave your house completely open, and start inviting strangers in. See how long that lasts.
Yeah, and then they'll say, "Oh, but that's not the same thing." Yes, it is.
Absolutely,
it's exactly the same thing.
Yep. You don't get to choose who comes in and out. You have nothing to stop them. You just have to accept everybody walking through your house, taking whatever they want, doing whatever they want. You're not allowed to call the police. Even if you do call the police, they won't show up because you basically invited the entire world into your home.
Yeah.
And that's not how it's supposed to be.
They only learn, and we as a nation only learn when we get to see the impact. And that's why we need this transparency
Yeah.
that we're seeing now, so we can see how bad things have gotten. Because with the media hiding it from us, we didn't see it. And now it's like with Biden. We know from the January 2021, when he took office, they were already hiding his mental deterioration from the public. They were already manipulating his schedule of speaking and when he was having meetings to hide from the public that he couldn't do the job. And the media was happy to do that. And then we had the debate. I mean, we had little incidents like, Obama walking around the stage, his wife walking him through G7 meetings.
You answered all the questions.
Yeah, just randomly joining all over the place. And they told us, no, you just don't understand. You just don't understand how sharp he is. And then we saw, and then
he had
transparency. He had to debate, and it was transparent. And suddenly we found out the truth. Well, that's what's happening right now. Same kind of moment. Now we're seeing the truth. Oh, USAID, it's absolutely important. No, it's not. Yeah. It's not essential. It's a tool of the intelligence agencies. It's countries that are just taking advantage of us. We have a Treasury Department that's paying to this up until Trump just stopped it. We have been paying terrorists and warlords in Africa to continue to kill people. And no one said, hey, one, that's a crime. And two, it's immoral.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. Just keep paying. Don't ask questions. Just pay.
Yeah. I actually think that my wife and I were discussing about how after Nixon was removed from office, because I'm actually convinced that Nixon was forced to resign.
Maybe.
I say that, and I won't elaborate, but that's because there's been certain information that's come out recently that was quite interesting, and it would add like another 3 hours onto the show, and I'm not going to do that to us. So, but when Nixon was president, he was the last president to have the power of impoundment. So impoundment, what that basically said was, the office of the executive could actually halt payments outright and take that money and move it to another department. Like, so the money would be allocated by Congress for a certain thing, right? A certain program or whatever. If for some reason that money was going towards something that was going to be not in the interest of the United States, and the executive, there was a need for that money to be diverted. Impoundment is a power of the presidency, of the executive branch, where they could seize that money and actually move it to the more necessary program. There were obviously certain stipulations and tests that you had to meet in order to be able to utilize the power of impoundment, but that was completely removed after Nixon was removed from office.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the government made sure, the Congress made sure that the president would never again have the ability to just outright stop payments from one place and send them to another, which is why when Trump decided to use a part of the defense budget for building the wall in 2016, they challenged it on the grounds that he was trying to utilize the powers of impoundment, which is illegal because it was removed from his office. That was incorrect. He was basically utilizing the defense budget under the auspices of national security to solidify the border and close it so that we could stop the invasion of foreign nationals into our country. That's how they played on the technicalities. In this particular case with the USAID, he hasn't stopped the payments. He has paused the payments for up to 3 months while they do an audit to make sure that the money is being sent to good purpose. If it's criminal and it's fraudulent, like a lot of these NGOs, there's many of them, of these 55,000 that were discovered, that are just companies on the books. They're shell companies. They don't actually exist. And yet they still are getting checks. So all that money will suddenly go under will most likely be seized as a part of a crime and returned to lower the deficit, not the debt, the deficit.
We'll see about that part.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be challenged by the Democrats because most of that money was earmarked for their pockets anyway.
Yeah,
But
Congress is notorious for repurposing money that suddenly becomes available.
Repurposing, yes.
Okay, we've actually gone over. We normally do about a 2-hour show. We're about 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Quick question, and that is, what are the odds you think of RFK getting two questions. One, RFK getting confirmed. What do you think?
I think that if they confirm RFK, they're going to use that as leverage to not confirm Tulsi.
Yeah, but what's the odds of RFK getting confirmed?
Boy, they are tight. I would say probably he's probably going to get like 50 votes. And then I'm thinking it's going to be another tiebreaker for Vance.
Okay.
I honestly believe that because even some of the Republicans that, should be behind the Making America Great agenda are not playing ball. Murkowski comes to mind as one.
Yeah. Well, I say it's going to be, he's got an 85% chance of getting confirmed. And I'm looking at about 52, 51, 52, somewhere in there, 51 or 52 votes. It won't need Vance. He's going to get that confirmation. Second thing, there is now it's starting to trend, the idea that Democrats are going to try and impeach Donald Trump again.
Yes.
That's for the last 30 days, less than 30 days of being in office.
Yeah.
Do you think it gets any traction?
No.
Neither do
Absolutely not. And even if they were to bring it to the House, so they're going to file the article. They've already said that they're filing the articles of impeachment. They've got the paperwork all set up, and they're already going to be putting it forward. Even if they put it on the floor of the House, it's not going to matter. In fact, if anything, it does nothing but hurt their cause more because now they really look like the guilty party. People have had enough.
And they're going to try and shut him down. They're trying to protect themselves, and they're protecting the status quo. That's what they're going to try and do. That's why they're talking impeachment again, because he's damaging the status quo. He's creating a situation that even after Trump is gone, you can't go back to the old ways. We can't have the status quo. Whatever happens next will have to be something new. It will have to be something different because all the old ways of doing nothing, standing there and giving empty platitudes and promises and taking people's money, you can't do it like you've been doing. There's too much that's been exposed. There's too much that's happened. And so that's why I think I think they come out because Democrats, they're out of touch. They don't realize that the majority of Americans are happy that all of this is happening. And they're going to try and impeach him.
Yeah.
And they're going to get laughed at on all the media, all the social media, all the news media. They're going to laugh at them. The public is. And they're going to suddenly realize, oh my God, we have nothing.
Well, Schumer coming out the other day really pissed me off because he's standing there in the middle of the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, the American people may have voted for this administration, but they haven't. They weren't going to vote for something like this, and the American people don't want this. And I said, get the American people out of your filthy mouth, because if you haven't paid attention, the popular vote was the mandate for this. That was the people. I don't know who Schumer is talking about when he talks about the people. I do know. Let me.
Chamber.
What's that?
His echo chamber. He's talking about his echo chamber.
Yeah, it's the same thing as when these guys they scream out our democracy. You and I have no place in their democracy. It's not all of us. It's not America. It's their vision of authoritarian feudalistic society that they want to impose on the rest of us. So when he's talking about, well, and we need to be part of the discussion, it's like, nope, you had your time in office for the discussion. Now sit down and shut up, because honestly, you have nothing to add of value to what's happening now. We are going through what's called a paradigm shift, right? We're leaving a postmodernistic globalist type of era. And Dr. Steve Turley actually put it best. Steve Turley is a YouTuber that is ex-academia, more conservative leaning, but he calls it the era of nationalistic populism. So basically what you're seeing is a lot of the younger generation are starting to turn back towards more traditional thought. They're starting to become more right-leaning and conservative, center, but still more right-leaning. And they're basically moving forward with this idea that, you know, there is such a thing as such a thing as a nation, and the people need to be in charge of that nation. That's where the national populism comes in. And MAGA, the MAGA Maha movement is sort of indicative of that.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet, no. But these are the starting steps, and this is what he said. There's it isn't so much denial that the Democrats are in. He was saying it was more like there's a mental diagnosis for somebody that is incapable of seeing critical issues, problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's two types. There's one for that's a generalized illness, and then the second one is more medical focused. And he said if you look at it, these people have been for so long in power and never having been told no, they can't understand that they're not being listened to anymore.
No, I disagree with them. They're arrogant. I give them that. And their arrogance would say, I'm important, so you must listen to me, because everyone who gets elected in Congress, in the House, in the Senate, many of the state legislatures, they assume that I'm a powerful person now. You must listen to me. I must be correct because I won an election.
Yeah.
And that's their arrogance and their ignorance at the same time. And they say that because that's how they have been treated for decades now, because of the education, the indoctrination we've gotten, that this is the way we're supposed to. They won, so we have to listen to them. They have to know something that you don't know. You can't argue with them. You don't know what they know. Yes, we can. And yes, they aren't smarter just because they won.
Right.
But they've been doing that. And we're talking about people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and McConnell, a whole host of them. We're looking at about more than about 40% of members of Congress have been there for 3 decades or more. 3 decades or more. It's over 60% of Congress has been around for 2 decades or more. So they've just gotten used to it. They're accustomed to it, and they don't want to acknowledge it because they're arrogant. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to be like the poors. They don't want to be like the petty common people, the peons, that the serfs that they consider us to be. They don't want to be someone who has to obey. They want to be the one issuing the orders. And so, no, it's a mental disorder. That's an excuse. That's a justification. That's a way out. No, they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what the consequences are. They have a team of people who read the reports and the polls, and they know that people are rejecting them. They don't like it.
Yeah.
And they're just saying, don't talk about that. We can't speak about that. You're on the reservation. Stay on the reservation. We don't talk about that. And they're going to do what we say because we're going to keep saying this, and then they're going to get it. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to just do what we said because they always have. Except now we're not. And they don't know how to convince us to do it again. Well, you respond to fear all the time. Guess what? You're afraid. Aren't you afraid? We're going to go to World War III. We're going to fight. We're going into Greenland with troops, U.S. troops. We're going to be fighting. Do you really want to fight for Greenland? But that was never on the table.
Yeah.
That was never even an option.
And even if it were, Joanna's got it right. People are just so burnt out with all of this that the only thing they really care about is just seeing everything dismantled. They want to know how, to the extent, how corrupt is it and how do we get rid of it? That's it. That's the only thing that people care about right now.
And we're finding out
yeah,
how corrupt it is. We're getting the transparency of how corrupt it is. And the answer, and we're finding out this is the process to fix it. To whatever degree we can get it fixed. We're finding that. And there will be some pain for it. There will be some overreaches. There will be some missteps. Absolutely. But I mean, you're talking about a $7 trillion annual budget. You're talking about tens of millions of people in the United States and around the world that have been working in this system. We're talking about, God, hundreds of thousands of middle managers that are completely useless and serve no purpose. Yeah, there's going to be some hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
But again, I think that you're going to see the system is going to be changed in such a way that we can never go back to the kind of corruption that we've been living with for at least 50 years. Maybe the argument can be made 30, 40 years, but we're not going back to that corruption. I don't know what's in the future.
Yeah.
But what we've had, not going to happen anymore.
No, they're going to have to come up with something different, especially since they came across the USAID.
No, that's just one example of it. And
yeah.
Treasury's another one.
But like Behringer was saying the other day when he was talking about they've AI mapped all of these NGOs, and you can look at all the connections that they have to each other. And he said that the USAID was the one that they caught first, and it seems to be the most prolific because it was tied to the CIA. So that was the easy road in, but that is not nearly the end of the journey. There are tons of NGOs that just operate on another level. And when you look,
I'm worried about the NGOs. I'm worried about there are.
But what it is, the government money that's going into these NGOs and then being siphoned off into personal pockets.
Yeah, but there's dozens.
They do it between each other. It looks like a cancer.
Yeah, but there's dozens upon dozens of departments and organizations of the United States, not NGOs, not non-governmental, by the way, NGO, non-governmental organization, something outside the government. There are dozens upon dozen actual government agencies that are siphoning off money for things that don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
The Biden administration spent $500 million in 2023 because of wasteful money of programs and
it was
programs and operations that no longer exist, and we still spent the money because we've never audited the government. We've never not stopped, and we had a treasury that said, just pay it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. Pay it anyway. So that's what I'm worried about, because we can see all the places that we're bleeding, and I guarantee you half of them at least don't need to exist, serve no real purpose other than moving money from one place to another. If we can identify that, the other NGOs, they disappear. If we get rid of all the places that we're just pushing money through in the different way, it's like a sieve holding on to a gallon of water. If we're seeing where it's all going and we shut it off in the government, the NGO disappears, because they don't serve any purpose other than collecting money. So stop it in the government. That's what I want to see happen. I think we're getting that. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but I think it's going to be beneficial. Hello, Tony. I do see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it.
But Tony, you showed up late.
Yeah.
We're ending. I love you. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for the like, share. I know you. Thank you for the support. But
go back and watch
again.
You can always watch it after this ends. And
yes,
then you can catch up on the rest of it. But thank you for joining us.
Always possible. But yeah, we've been on 2.5 hours, so a little longer than we had expected. And I appreciate that everyone was here with us as we stayed on a little longer.
You were pulling the freight.
Well, work comes first, man. You got to pay the bills.
Yeah,
I understand. I'm not upset. I just meant that I know you always, Tony, you love to make comments like many others, like Joanna and Far North and many other individuals love to comment. And I was just upset you weren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Go back, watch the show. Leave a
comment then. Yeah, leave a comment on that, on any of the shows, on any of the platforms that we show up. Leave a comment. Like, share, subscribe. Join us. Join us at the Liberty First Foundation, so that we can grow our voices together and have all these wonderful, stimulating conversations. And even if it's just the one of us or two of us that show up from time to time, you'll still be able to have a discussion with us.
Yep, absolutely. We love everybody. Everybody that supports us, everyone that catches the program. We even enjoy the people who hate watch the program. We enjoy all of you who respectfully agree or disagree with us, to have the conversation, to engage in the issues that matter. But with that said, any final thoughts for you there, Dal?
No, just keep your head on a swivel and watch out for more of amazing happenings, both good and bad. It's a hell of a time to be alive, and as a person that has studied history, we don't know it, but we're actually living in a historic period as of this moment. Our children and their children's children are going to look back at this time, and they're going to think two things. One, wow, that was weird. And two, they're going to be like, at least we pulled it out and we made it better. So from all of us here at the Liberty First Foundation, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we're going to go ahead and sign ourselves out. Catch you next week.